You're blind to most of the room you're sitting in right now. Not because your eyes don't work, not because you're distracted, and not because you're missing something obvious. You're blind because your brain decided most of it wasn't worth showing you. Sounds ridiculous, right? After all, you can look around you right now and see your room. The walls, the furniture, the objects around you. Everything seems perfectly clear. But here's the strange truth. Your brain isn't showing you reality exactly as it exists. It's showing you a simplified version, a compressed version, a version designed for survival, not accuracy. And once you realize that, you start seeing the human mind very differently. Imagine you're a human 50,000 years ago. You're walking through a forest. There are thousands of details around you: leaves moving in the wind, branches on the ground, patterns in the trees, shadows shifting in the distance. Your brain could spend time analyzing every single detail, but that would be a terrible survival strategy. Because while you're busy studying leaves, something might be studying you instead. A predator hiding in the bushes, a snake in the grass, a threat moving through the shadows. Evolution had a choice to make. Should the brain focus on understanding everything? Or should it focus on reacting quickly? Evolution chose speed, because the human who reacted first survived, and the human who demanded perfect information usually didn't. For thousands of generations, the brain became incredibly efficient, not at seeing reality, but at filtering reality. And that's exactly what it's doing today. Even though most of us no longer live in the forest, the same ancient hardware is running inside a modern world. Think about yesterday. How many houses did you pass? How many cars? How many signs? How many people? Most likely, you don't remember. Not because you weren't looking, but because your brain quietly decided those details weren't important. It filtered them out. Your eyes collected the information, but your brain chose not to keep it. And this happens constantly, right now, as you're watching this. Your brain is taking in a huge amount of information, far more than your conscious mind can process. Every color, every shadow, every texture, every tiny movement. That goes the same for your eyes. And the amount of data entering your eyes every second is enormous. So your brain does something very clever. It compresses reality. Just like a computer compresses a large file, it throws away information, not randomly, strategically. Anything it considers unnecessary gets pushed aside, and only the important parts remain. But that creates a problem. If your brain is constantly deleting information, why does reality still feel incomplete? Why don't you notice giant holes everywhere? Because your brain has another trick: it predicts. Imagine walking into your kitchen. You expect the refrigerator to be there, you expect the table to be there, you expect the walls to still exist. Your brain doesn't wait to verify every detail. It already has a model of what the room should look like. And before you consciously examine the room, your brain starts filling in the blanks, using memory, using experience, and using past, using patterns it has learned over your entire life. This process is called predictive processing, and many neuroscience now believes that it's one of the most brain's important functions. And instead of a building realities from scratch every second, your brain predicts really first, then checks whether it's mostly correct. Think about how much energy that saves. Imagine having to analyze every object around you from zero every single second. Your brain would be overwhelmed almost instantly. So instead, it creates shortcuts, predictions, best guesses. And most of the time, those guesses are surprisingly accurate, which is exactly why you don't notice them. Reality feels seamless, continuous, stable. But under the surface, Your brain is constantly making assumptions. In a way, your experience of reality is partially constructed, not fabricated, not fake, constructed, built from a combination of sensory information and prediction. And this is where things get really strange. When people hear the word hallucination, they imagine seeing things that aren't there, hearing voices, seeing monsters, experiencing something completely disconnected from reality. But some neuroscientists argue that a perception itself is a controlled hallucination. Not because reality isn't real, but because your brain is constantly generating a model of reality, a model based on incomplete information. Think about your peripheral vision. Look straight ahead without moving your eyes. How much detail can you actually see around the edges? Very little. Yet your experience feels complete. Your brain fills in the missing pieces so smoothly that you never notice what's absent. And it does this with every moment of every day. Which brings us to the strangest part of all. You never see the editing process. Imagine a movie editor cutting scenes out of a film, removing details, deleting footage, changing the entire story. Now imagine that same editor also removes all evidence the edits never happened. That's what your brain does. It doesn't just filter reality, it hides the filtering. It doesn't remove information, it hides the removal. You never see the gaps because the system creating the gaps is also covering them up. The editor deletes the scenes, then also deletes the proof, then convinces you nothing was ever missing. That's why reality feels so convincing. That's why experiences feel complete, because your brain is incredibly good at protecting the illusion of continuity. And honestly, that's probably a good thing. Because if you ever suddenly become aware of every missing detail, every prediction, every shortcut, every gap being filled in, daily life would become overwhelming. Your brain isn't trying to deceive you, it's trying to help you survive. It's trying to help you function. It's trying to help you navigate an impossibly complex world. And to do that, it sacrifices accuracy for efficiency, truth for speed, detail for uselessness. So the next time you look around the room you're sitting in, remember this. You're not seeing everything. You're seeing what your brain decided was worth showing you. The rest is filtered, compressed, predicted, edited, quietly reconstructing behind the scenes. Reality isn't what you see, it's what your brain lets you see. And that might be one of the strangest truths about the human mind. Welcome to Solvix, exploring the questions hidden in plain sight.